Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining today's web conference, the Local Market Power Mitigation Enhancements Pre-Market Simulation Training. Before we begin, when you're in the WebEx, please ensure you've opened the chat panel by using the associated icon located at the bottom of your screen. Please know that all audio connections are muted at this time. We'll provide instructions on how to ask a question later. If you require technical assistance, please send a chat to the event producer. With that, I turn the conference over to Cynthia Hyman, Lead Client Trainer. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Helen. Welcome to the LMPME Pre-Market Sim Training. And I want to go over who is in the room today. So starting with?
Hi, this is Shruti Hariharan with Market Validation.
Chris McIntosh, Market Simulation Lead.
Kevin Head, Market Validation.
Katie Wickler, Market Validation.
Greg Ford with IT.
Penny Sage, Market Validation. Ann Trapnell with Market Services.
So today we're going to go over the changes that are coming with this new market initiative. At first, we're going to talk about why do we have this initiative. So the Local Market Power Mitigation Enhancement Initiative addresses concerns that the ISO market's current market power mitigation process can result in the dispatch of resources at prices below their cost. That came directly from our board memo to our Board of Governors. So that is the purpose of this initiative, is to resolve that issue. Next, let's go over what we're going to talk about. Today we're going to cover the changes to the real-time market related to the local market power mitigation runs. We'll talk about the new master file options allowing SCs, EIM SCs to limit their transfers if they need to. And we'll go over the market sim scenarios and talk about the registration requirements for the new hydro DEB for both market sim and production. Little overview of the impacts. There will be impacts to the following systems that you see here. And also you can look for the changes to impact these BPMs. And we're planning to get the draft BPMs out next week. We'll talk more about that later. So let's talk about the features of LMPME. And we'll start with flow reversal and economic displacement. So what is flow reversal? It is mitigation mitigation results cause EIM BAAs to change from importing to exporting at mitigated bid prices during subsequent market runs. We have implemented changes to prevent that from happening. And economic displacement due to mitigated bids occurs when energy from one resource is replaced with energy from another. It can result in transfers beyond what's necessary to resolve market power. So we're going to become more efficient as well. So for example, there are MPM changes in the FMM. So today, market power mitigation is applied independently to each 15-minute interval, and if you're mitigated in one of those 15-minute intervals, you'll be mitigated in the rest of them. But today, it's going to be independent. So if you see the example at the bottom, we have 4 15-minute intervals. This resource is mitigated in the second interval, but not mitigated in the third and fourth intervals. So that's a change from what we have today. And in the 5-minute market, we're going to use the advisory intervals to evaluate for mitigation, and then in the binding interval, the mitigated bids will be there. So we can't do the mitigation in the same binding interval, so we'll do it in the advisory interval before that binding interval. Another thing that we're going to do is add a tolerance. So that, as you can see here, there is a formula. The competitive LMP plus a small configurable tolerance of 0.001 will be used for energy bid mitigation above that level. And I'm going to try to explain this, but I might jump in, one of my colleagues might jump in and help. So the example that I'd like to give is if you have a BAA, one BAA, and it's exporting to another BAA, and the importing BAA is import constrained, and then mitigated to the competitive LMP, we want to add that 0.001 to the import constraint to ensure that flow reversal doesn't happen. Did I explain that well enough? So we're adding that 001 just so we can ensure that resource, the correct resource is getting mitigated. There will also be a master file change where EIM-SCs will have the option to limit export transfers when they're mitigated. There's going to be some more information about how to implement that change in the master file. I believe there'll be a form letter that you'll need to submit to us, but there will be more information about that. So now let's talk about the new default energy bid option that's available for hydro resources. So what's the purpose of this? So this addresses the concern that some hydro resources with limited energy are being depleted inefficiently, and this formula will capture the opportunity cost for hydro resources to sell energy in markets outside of the ISO and to generate replacement energy from a peaking resource. So let's take a look at that new formula. So the DEB is going to be the max of these three components, the gas floor, the short-term component, and the long-term geographic component, and I have explanations of what the three of those are below there. So it's going to, the DEB is going to use the max of these three. Stop for a minute so you can take a look at that. All right. And then we'll look at the system changes. So there's going to be changes to the master file related to this new hydro DEB option. It's going to recognize the new option. It's going to manage that at the resource level. And there'll be a new field to select and rank that hydro DEB option within all the other options. And we're going to be storing the resource's max storage horizon, talk a little bit more about that later, and identify the default electric pricing hubs for hydro resources. And you can then, within certain parameters, request changes to those additional hubs. There will be some updated reports in CMRI so that you can see the hydro DEB option in the default energy bid curves report. So before I go on to the market sim scenarios, Helen, I'd like to open it up for questions.
Yes, certainly. So if you would like to ask a question, please press #2 on your telephone keypad now. You will hear a notification when your line is unmuted, and at that time, please state your question. So as a reminder, pressing #2 on your telephone keypad will indicate that you wish to ask a question. And we're just waiting. And I don't believe there are any questions for you at this time.
Great, thank you. So let's talk about the market sim scenarios and the requirements. So there's 3 market sim scenarios. I have little summaries of them on the slide, but there is a document that has all the market sim structured scenarios with details, so I encourage you to look at that, and there's a link there. If you're interested in validating the new hydro DEB, for the structured scenarios, you need to identify a resource that you would like to validate in our market sim. So there are rules here. Again, these same rules are located in the market sim scenario document. Also, you can identify up to 2 resources to validate the mitigation framework enhancements if you'd like. You submit this information to marketsim@caiso.com if you'd like to participate. Also, there is a structure there if you would like to submit some resources for the unstructured component of the LMPME Market Simulation. You can submit up to 5 resources. This is an example of the template that we have available. It's out on our website, and we'll need that returned to us by September 20th, 2019. Now, when it comes to production, you're going to need to submit a city ticket to register your hydro-DEB. I don't have a date for that yet, but when we have a date, a market notice will go out. So hydro resources with storage capability are eligible to request the hydro-DEB option. You should submit a city ticket to register a maximum storage horizon and additional electric pricing hubs, and the title should say hydro-DEB registration in the subject so that it gets routed to the right place. Again, when we have our BPM PRR submitted next week, proposed revision request, the details will be in Appendix D 8.1 of the Market Instruments BPM. I want to talk a little bit more about this maximum storage horizon. So for the hydro-DEB registration, we need that maximum storage horizon, and there's two ways you can provide that information to us. The first is a written attestation telling us, providing us the proposed number of months of storage, et cetera, by a representative of your company. And the second is to provide data for at least 3 years of historic water levels for that specific hydro facility and regulatory filings related to the operations of the resource. So you have two options there. Additional electric hub pricing is also available for resources that provide firm transmission contracts showing the source, sink, location, volume of firm transmission rights, and the applicable dates of the contract. I'm going to hand it over to Shruti next to go over an example.
Thank you. This is just a quick numerical example to show how the hydro-DEB calculation will work. So we picked a sample resource with just one additional hub to simplify that example. The fuel region gas price of that resource is $1.50, and given where it's located and which BA it's located in, the default electric pricing hub is the Mid-C power hub. The resource has a maximum storage horizon of 2 months, and the resource has provided sufficient document to be eligible to one additional pricing hub. So in this case, they've shown that they have firm transmission rights to the NP15 hub. And since the firm transmission rights shown is greater than the Pmax of the resource, the weighting factor for this hub is equal to 1. So this is just some sample index information related to the electric pricing hubs. So in this case, the resource has 2 hubs. One is the default hub, and the other one is the additional hub. So I just took some sample numbers there. And we go further down on the slide, we have the 3 components that we consider for the hydro-DEB calculation. The first is the gas floor component, which considers the fuel region gas price. So in this case, it was $1.50. So then the gas floor works out to $18.44. The short-term component only considers the default hub pricing. So it considers the day-ahead index, the balance of month index, and the month ahead for the first additional month at the default location. So those are the $2, $5, and the $15. The short-term component also includes a multiplier of 1.4. So in this case, the short-term component works out to $21. The long-term component has 2 parts to it. The first part is the prices of the default hub for months greater than just one additional month. So in this case, this resource showed a max storage horizon of 2 months. The long-term component includes the second month ahead price at the default hub. The long-term component also considers the additional hub prices. So it considers the day-ahead index, the balance of month index, and the month-ahead prices for all months for all additional hubs. So that's the $4, $6, the $20, and the $6. So the long-term component works out at $22. The hydro DEB is the max of A, B, and C. So in this case, the hydro DEB works out at $22.
Helen, can we open it up and see if there are any questions?
Yes, we certainly can. So as before, if you have a question, please press #2 on your telephone keypad. You'll hear a notification when your line is unmuted, and at that time, please state your question. So pressing #2 on your telephone keypad will indicate that you wish to ask a question. And I'm waiting, and I don't believe there are any questions for you at this time.
Thanks, Helen. All right, there's just another couple slides, and that is the milestones. Excuse me. The Hydro DEB Market Sim registration deadline, remember, is August 30th, which is tomorrow. And Market Sim starts on September 3rd to October 11th. We're anticipating posting that draft BPM language by September 5th, and production activation is set for November 13th. The registration date for the Hydro DEB option in production, as I mentioned earlier, will be communicated in a market notice. And finally, this presentation will be posted in the Learning Center on the ISO website, along with a recording of this call in case any of your friends and neighbors want to listen to it and they were not on the call. And finally, there are some references to documents related to this initiative. So if you're interested, you can certainly use the document to get to those things. And with that, I'll just open it up finally for any final questions, and then we'll all get on with the rest of our day.
So as before, if you have any final questions, please press #2 on your telephone keypad. So pressing #2 will indicate that you wish to ask a question. And so I'm just waiting now to see if anybody presses #2. And I don't believe you've got any questions. There are no questions in the queue at this time.
Well, thank you all for joining and listening in. Again, if you have questions, certainly contact us. And thank you very much. And thank you to all of my subject matter experts who assembled here to help you guys out.
Thank you very much. That concludes our conference. Thank you for using AT&T Event Conferencing Enhanced. You may now disconnect.